It is the 31st day of October 2025, the very last day of the month of October and the very last Friday of the month as well.
I tell you, mwisho wa mwezi inakuja Friday. Imejipanga.
As you can see, we're also painting the studio pink, and that is a commemoration of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which also culminates today. The theme is every journey is unique, every story is different.
Right.
Get your breast checked, both men and women.
Karibu sana, this is the Morning Cafe. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. For those who are keeping count, it is 55 days to Christmas. It is also the international, it's World Cities Day, not international. It's World Cities Day in commemoration of the urban centers. It is a feel-good Friday here at TV47, and DJ Kicks will be here with us. For those who are doing exams, KJSER, they're sitting for the integrated science this morning, and later creative arts and sports. And for KCSE, practicals, two practicals. Then next week, wakalia makaratasi proper sasa.
Amazing.
Yes.
It's also World Savings Day. KDIC, that is the Kenya Depositors Insurance Corporation, were here yesterday, and they're encouraging you to take that to the bank and save more. My name is Ann Odida. Tuangalie magazeti sasa. Tanzania gizani taifa leo.
Habari ile kwenye ukurasa wa mbele ya magazeti mengi leo. Darkness in Dar, that's a standard.
Daily Nation, Tanzania on edge.
And they all seem to agree. On the front page of the Weekend Star, they steer clear of matters Tanzania, and they talk about top politicians facing trouble in Raila's absence.
People Daily, how AI could decide Kenya's 2027 vote.
Wow. What did you think about it? And Business Daily, cheapest and costliest banks for personal loans revealed. Finally, hakuna kujificha tunaona. Today being a Friday, it is a youth perspective. We'll be having all this, ladies and gentlemen, in studio starting at 6:30, so do stand by for that. As I told you earlier, it is a feel-good Friday. DJ Kicks atakuwa hapa akimix zile tu kidogo, kunengua viungo. Bansi Kimuya, our weekend queue, will be here as well. So do stand by.
And it's actually her birthday, so happy birthday, Bansi.
Oh, Bansi Kimuya, happy birthday. All right, tuvuke border, tuangazie, na sasa shida ni for the second day running, we still don't have papers from Tanzania.
Tutalewa. We will.
Jirani hana internet.
Ana.
Amefungiwa mahali. Walikuwa sawa jirani hana jirani, wewe jirani ndo hauna. Twende Uganda.
Daily
Truth
Monitor.
be told. Go ahead.
Different pages. A chorus from lawmakers, rights activists and civil society actors are united in voicing support for media freedom, while some government officials insist the ban on Nation Media Group in Uganda from covering parliament and the president continues for reasons known only to them. And we have some leaders here. Deputy Speaker anasema, I promised to cross-check with the office of the clerk regarding the Nation Media Group. So I cross-checked, that is, I'm quoting him, and I have been told that there is an active investigation going on and that Parliament is complying with the investigation. Leaders have been quoted here. Kuna Farida Lule, that is Executive Director, Ushahidi Foundation Uganda. There's also ULC Vice President, Ms. Margaret Sentamu, the Executive Director of the Ugandan Media and Women Association, ICT Minister, ameongelelea this issue as well. That is Dr. Chris Bariomunsi, and of course the County South and Acting LOP. Truth be told,
So this paper is basically fighting for their rights. This is part of the Nation Media Group. Both their TV station and the newspaper have been banned from covering Parliament or State House.
for reasons best known to
Those people who actually gave the ban.
9 killed as landslide struck Sebi. It's a devastating occurrence there. Landslides have struck rural villages in Queen and Buko districts in Sebei sub-region, leaving 9 people dead and several injured. Hundreds of families also displaced. Huku chini matters business, 800 billion shillings in closed mobile money accounts remains unclaimed. That's the Daily Monitor, Uganda.
All right. Take a look at the new vision. Muslim SACCOs get 83 billion Ugandan shillings. This funding is to cover about 16,300 mosques, and I think that's a way of funding their religious organizations. They also make mention of that tragedy in Mount Elgon, 9 die in Elgon landslides. That story is on page 3. Matters politics as President Yoweri Museveni continues to campaign for his presidential bid. Museveni and First Lady braved the rain during campaigns in Napak district. Ikifika mahali ya campaign hakuna kuepuka, inabidi unaenda. Kama kunanyesha unaendelea na kazi. Ukishapata kiti ndio kukinyesha hivi unasema mimi sitoki nje. Yeah. How pension can finance Africa's development is another story there. Shisha banned but still burning. Hii sio kwao peke yao, hata huku kwetu walisema wameban. Lakini moshi kwa kila mahali.
Hatari.
All right, so those are the papers in Uganda. And again, I remind you, unfortunately, we do not have any papers from Tanzania because hawana internet. Interneti hawana wale. So we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in depth for now.
Let's take a look at the weather situation. Leo kuna baridi Nairobi na vile vile several parts across the country. We start off in Bungoma. It's 17 degrees, feels like it. Light rain expected at around 1 p.m. It's a cloudy day in Bungoma, highs of 24 degrees. Precipitation here, 6.8 millimeters.
And yes, the president continues on his tour of Western Kenya. He was in some regions yesterday and he'll continue. Atazunguka maeneo kama Bungoma na kwingineko. Na eventually ataenda Malava. Na sijui alipitia Malava jana, but anyway. From Western Kenya, let's go up north to Wajir. It is 24 degrees this morning. Partly cloudy day, highs of 33 degrees. Yes, they do expect a bit of precipitation, however, little 1 millimeter there. So quite hot in Wajir. And that kind of temperature, especially the highs, will persist. Today, kama ni 33, itaendelea, ita drop kidogo kesho. Alafu irudi. Next week, wanagonga 34. Where? All right. Mount Kenya region.
It's 16 degrees in Meru. This morning feels like it. It's a cloudy day. Precipitation in Meru this morning is 1.3 millimeters, highs of 23. This will itashuka to 22 during the weekend. That's Meru. Malindi?
Yeah, the coastal region, there was a bit of rain recorded over the past 2 days. It looks like it's continuing even in Malindi. It is 24 degrees as we speak right now. Light rain expected at 70% chances, so definitely it's raining even in Malindi. 7 millimeters of rainfall, so this is the highest we've seen so far. Najua Diani ilikuwa 20 na Mombasa ilikuwa 23 yesterday. So Malindi yao ni kidogo. Highs of 28. It will get a bit warmer once we get to next week at 29.
Coast kunanyesha, not holiday weather.
You see holiday weather.
Homa Bay, 21 degrees, feels like 24. Light rain expected. It's actually raining this morning. Highs of 25 degrees in Homa Bay. Precipitation here, 8.5 millimeters.
That's the highest. Yes.
Finally,
in Nairobi, this is your Friday weather. It is a cloudy day, currently 17 degrees, so it's actually warmer than, wasema kuna baridi, lakini according to this, it's actually warmer than usual. But they say that we're likely to experience some rain starting at 4 p.m., but there's a lot of precipitation across the entire day. It's only that once it gets to 4 p.m., chances of rain definitely go high. Highs of 23 degrees, mvua 8.4 millimeters, which I think now that's the highest we've seen across board. Yeah. And as far as temperatures are concerned, it will get a bit cooler this weekend before joto kirudi tena next week. We're going back to 26 degrees next week.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So for now, enjoy the rain in Nairobi.
All right. It's 9 minutes past 6 a.m. Let's see Friday traffic in Nairobi.
And I can already see some trouble along Jogoo Road. Okay, lakini nakani kama imegeuka kidogo. There was some problem there kwa hiyo Buruburu, what do you call it, junction. But that appears to have been sorted, and now the issue has moved to the City Stadium roundabout. Sasa hii technology inataka mambo gani? Hatuendi huko Donholm, tushapita, tuko Jogoo Road sasa. Yeah, thank you for that. So the issues around the City Stadium roundabout, there's a long stretch of red, that area of Shauri Moyo. Na sijui kwa nini sasa haitaki kutuonyesha hii traffic. Hii maneno ya technology sometimes. But all right, the only other problem I'd seen probably is inside the CBD kidogo.
There it is.
There it is. Thank you. Yes, you can see this stretch pale Shauri Moyo at this City Stadium roundabout. Hii hapo Makadara ni ile ya kawaida, nothing to worry about. Hata pale Outer Ring Road, it's a bit slow today, slower than usual. Kangundo Road, pale kabla ufike Mama Lucy Hospital hapo, around Komarok area, both sides of the road are getting really busy this morning. Nani kama
Okay, Friday traffic is not that bad.
It's not that bad, but kuna mahali nilikuwa naenda kuangalia alafu ikaenda ikapotea. So yes, most roads are green this morning. It is Friday. Hopefully once we get to about 1:30,
yes,
we're going to take a look at more traffic situations, because I know by then itakuwa ime build up around Nairobi.
Right. All right, let's have the quote of the day.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
All right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies in depth. Tanzania gizani is the headline here on the front page of Taifa Leo. Kwa siku ya pili mfululizo, raia wa Tanzania wanakabiliana na polisi wakipinga uchaguzi walioutaja mzaha, quote and quote. Maandamano, hali ya taharuki imeendelea kutanda Tanzania baada ya uchaguzi wa Ijumaa, huku serikali ikiagiza wafanyikazi kusalia nyumbani, ghasia zikiendelea kwa siku ya pili. I saw somewhere that Samia is already leading by 51.7%.
Hizo ndio zile zinaitwa provisional results.
Yule anamfuata kuna 7%.
But you see, the truth of the matter is that anyone who would have probably given us some credible competition was already out of the race. Tundu Lissu ule wa Chadema na ule mwingine anaitwa Mpina ule wa ACT. Wote walikuwa washaondolewa.
Kwani wengine hawezi kazi?
Wengine hata hawajulikani sana. Hawajulikani. Ukiangalia hao majina hujaiasikia. Hata umeona kwa kurasa za mbele. So that means even if were initially unknown, no one knows about them.
Lakini hata kama ukiona kwa ballot utaki, wanasema mama must go, si una tick tu hiyo yenye utaki. Now that mama must
you don't know who you're voting for, because the first encounter of that candidate ni kwa ballot paper. Hautampigia kura.
So better the devil you know.
You know that's what people do for MCAs. Wanasema hii chama ndio mimi napigia, alafu naandikia tu mtu yote. Hiyo si vizuri kabisa.
Picha hizi hapa ni polisi wakikabiliana na waandamanaji jijini Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, kufuatia hatua ya tume ya uchaguzi ya nchi hiyo kupiga marufuku wagombeaji wawili wakuu wa upinzani kushiriki uchaguzi mkuu uliofanyika Jumatano. Serikali ya nchi hiyo ilisitisha huduma za interneti na kuagiza wafanyakazi kusalia nyumbani. Amri ya kutoka nje pia ilitolewa. Vidokezo zaidi. Matiang'i, naibu kinara wa Jubilee. Chama cha Jubilee kimemteua Fred Matiang'i kuwa naibu kiongozi wake yesterday. Uhalifu ndani ya vikosi maalumu, wanasema kwamba maafisa kutoka DCI pamoja na kitengo maalum cha operesheni wakamatwa. Italia yataka raia wake kuhama Mali, ni habari nyingine katika ukurasa wa 8. Kule juu, IG apata ushindi mkubwa mahakamani. Ni mahakama ya Nigeria yasema Inspector Generali wa polisi ndiye mwenye mamlaka ya kuajiri, kupandisha vyeo maafisa wa polisi NPS. Finally wamevurutana sana.
Wamesumbuana sana. Walikuwa wanamwambia hizi fanya recruitment. Wanasema hiyo si kazi yake.
Historia Arsenal ikitoa mechi 6. Arsenal.
Rudia tena.
Arsenal ikitoa.
Iko wapi?
Mechi 6.
Basi. Carabao wapi tuko sawa.
Top of the tree hata sitegwe sasa.
Darkness in Dar, that's the front page of the Standard. They talk about defiance. Tanzania has exploded into its most violent unrest in decades as furious citizens pour onto the streets to reject what they call a stolen election. President Samia Suluhu's whereabouts remain unknown amid a nationwide lockdown, internet blackout, and mounting deaths. Now, with borders on edge and the army warning police against shooting protesters, the world watches as a nation once praised for its calm descends into chaos. The story is on page 4. Yesterday, I saw even members of the European Parliament actually condemned the election in Tanzania and said that was not free and fair. That's a parliament sitting in Brussels. Yes. So that's the main story there on the front page. And hata kama wamezima net, hii story bado imepatikana hapa Kenya. Lakini zile story kule ndani, ile ya Jubilee iko pale page 2. Tundu Lissu pia amepewa I will not give up the struggle, says Lissu as he gets democracy award. Alikuwa awarded democracy pale, a special award for his fight against democracy. This paper is very heavy today.
It's heavy. You know, that's what
Very heavy today. Mpaka na shangaa kwani wanazungumzia mambo gani huko. Lakini wako na masuala ya police recruitment kule ndani. So there's a lot you can read kule ndani. Lakini pale back page. Rudia tena. The Gunners. How Arsenal are looking to improve their atmosphere. Can they do better than this?
They can.
Yeah. So kwa ile English Cup ama inajulikana kama Carabao, sasa quarterfinals, Arsenal will face Crystal Palace. Tuliwachapa pale kwa ligi, sasa wanakuja tukutane nao Carabao. Sisi kama Arsenal. Cardiff will be facing Chelsea, Manchester City will be facing Brentford, and Newcastle will play Fulham. Wanasema Arsenal have scored only 5 goals from open play. Lakini I don't know why they keep insisting that Arsenal have to score goals from open play. Kwani zile bao zote Arsenal washa concede from corners and set pieces. They don't count over the years. Ati sahi sabu wanafunga kutoka kwa kona, sasa ndio wanahesabu ati zihesabiwe kando. Hizo zihesabiwe kando. Wacheni hiyo maneno wacha. Koma kabisa. Gazeti la The Standard.
All right. Daily Nation, Tanzania on edge. Crisis wave of unrest amid a curfew and internet restrictions presents a test for President Hassan's government. Does she really care though?
Well,
okay.
She should.
Tear gas, gunshots and reports of deaths as protesters return to streets in Dar es Salaam and other towns. International flights cancelled. Businesses take a hit with civil servants told to work from home. Provisional results show President Samia Hassan taking an early lead. Of course.
Are you shocked? Did you expect any different?
Yes, okay. That story has been covered on page 4, 5, and 6. And Tanzanian election yenyewe, what a time to be alive. African leaders demand climate finance reforms, and they reveal hypocrisy of a global system that demands African nations commit to emissions reductions while denying them the resources to build clean economies. Uhuru Party picks Matiang'i for 2027, and the Jubilee Party has formally unveiled former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i as its deputy party leader and endorsed his 2027 presidential bid. The move marks the clearest sign yet of the party's succession plan after former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Kuleju, one police stand on those they swore to protect, and former SHA boss and 3 others charged with 17.5 million shillings fraud. Unajua wanasemanga ni wale wapole. Wow. This is Robert Ngasira and Elijah Washira, former CEO and former chairperson wa SHA. 17.5 million fraud. Wale wenye nadhani wanaweza iba ndio sasa hawaibi.
Even this paper today is very heavy. It's a heavy paper up and down.
Tanzania imejaza hizi na.
Story of Tanzania on pages 4, 5, and 6. Kenya suffers as Tanzania reels from chaos, and that's what many people do not realize, that there's a lot of business, cross-border business, especially at border points like Namanga and even places like Oloitoktok. Tourism also is suffering in Tanzania, and you know we have a lot of exchanges in tourism between Kenya and Tanzania. So saini kama border wanasema wataki wa Kenya waingie upande ile. Nyinyi kama mnataka kwenda ku demonstrate.
Uliwaona? By then niliona walikuwa blocked wengine.
Lakini kuna wengine ukweli wanataka kwenda, yani wamemiss maandamano, wanataka kuingia Tanzania waandamane.
Anaenda kupigania little sister.
Anyway, so those are some of the stories on the inside pages.
On the back page, no time to rest as Federation announces plans for camp. This is the football it's the Harambee Starlets who qualified for the 2026 WAFCON set for Morocco. They arrived at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi on Wednesday night from Senegal, where they had gone to play against Gambia in the 2026 AFCON qualifiers, where we won 4-1 on aggregate. Federation mourns fallen para badminton player. There's another story here, that is Japheth Kakai Kitela. Hosting basketball tourneys comes at a steep price for KBF. And that's the Daily Nation.
From the Daily Nation, we take a look at the Star, or the Weekend Star, actually. Top politicians face trouble in Raila's absence. We've been talking a lot about this, about how many politicians and current elected leaders have simply got into those positions by virtue of being close to the former Prime Minister, the late Raila Odinga. And those who were always hanging on his coattails to ensure that they get elected or re-elected. And they've put some of the images there on the front page, like Abdul Swamad Sharif Nasir, the governor of Mombasa, the governor of the great city of Nairobi pale anaitwaje ule wa Madimples pia ko pale, ule governor wa Kilifi pia ko pale, ule governor wa Kakamega, governor wa Siaya, governor wa Homa Bay, and a lot more leaders who are only elected, according to this paper, because they were close associates of the former Prime Minister. So Odinga's political cloud aided his close associates and ODM candidates. What happens in 2027? Utakuwa unaulizwa ni rafiki ya nani sasa?
Baba. Even in death.
Una hakika baba alisema wewe ndio rafiki yake.
Hakuna.
So if two people come, let's say in Mombasa, and they all say, "Hey, mimi ni rafiki ya baba." Na mwingine anasema hata mimi ni rafiki ya baba. And I know there'll be a lot of name dropping. Most of them will be using Raila Odinga's name in 2027. But there'll be many across board. So that's a very interesting story on the inside pages 4 and 5. Now wanasema kitaumana for this kind of lot. Cha tuangalie ile maswala, the kind of words they've used. Yeah, top politicians face trouble in absence. In Siaya Orengo's re-election battle looks uphill without Raila's influence. In 2022, he narrowly defeated former Rarieda MP Nicholas Gumbo, because even Nicholas Gumbo can claim that Raila was also my friend, who ran on a UDM ticket, and analysts predict the 2027 race could even be tougher. Other people like Suna East MP, Junet Mohammed, kitaumana. So that's the main story there. Other stories, of course, they make mention of what's happening in Tanzania. Pale chini wasema Tanzania on the brink as protests rock election day. Now, the difference between what was happening in Kenya and what's currently happening in Tanzania is that we still cannot gauge just how bad the situation is because of the internet shutdown. At least in Kenya, whatever happened was covered live on TV. It was there on the internet. All this information was laid out. So however small an issue may have been, it probably was overplayed on social media or even on TV. In Tanzania, hatuoni televisheni, hatuna magazeti na hakuna internet. Tunaona tu picha moja moja hapa na pale. The situation could actually be a lot worse.
You might know about it after the elections.
After probably the internet comes back and we start getting newspapers, because they're saying the people who have been killed, quite a number.
Yeah.
The numbers, no one knows. In Kenya ilikuwa mtu akipigwa risasi tunajua siku hiyo kuna mtu akipigwa risasi mahali fulani. In Tanzania, no one knows. Inside State's grand plan to deliver smooth KCSE and curb cheating. Remember, the examinations KCSE continue. They've been doing practical papers and the special papers as well, things like power mechanics, electricity, home science. Wanamaliza hizo practicals leo. Kuanzia Monday, unakaa chini kwa darasa hivi, unaandika Kiingereza kama ukijui. Alafu hiyo siku ingine hesabu, ngoja. Pale juu, the siasa pull temporary truce and why Ruto no longer needs ODM experts. Sasa hata ule jamaa wa Jogoo alisema ni yeye ni expert. Na ile masuala ya Jubilee, Uhuru Hans Matiang'i Jubilee in battle with Ruto for presidency. Those are the main stories on the Weekend Star today. It's also a very heavy paper. Leo magazeti makaratasi inaenda kuisha. Kama unatafuta ya kufunga nyama, leo ndo ununue, ziko nyingi sana. Yeah. Fresh, independent, different, the Weekend Star.
All right. People Daily. Online campaigns. Now they're talking about how AI could decide Kenya's 2027 vote inside the invisible world where data and digital manipulation meet democracy. Nasema kwamba as angry citizens in neighboring Tanzania continue demonstration of alleged electoral malpractice for a second day yesterday, videos of the unrest flooded social media. Among the most shared clips showed a crowded Julius Nyerere International Airport, captioned, Tanzanians have stormed and occupied the airport protesting against Samir's rule. Now they're saying with all that is going on, AI could decide Kenya's 2027 vote, online campaigns.
Do you think that what's happening in Tanzania could happen in Kenya?
The
possibility of a shutdown of the internet?
I don't think anything like that can happen.
Can it work here?
You know, Kenyans, unaona hata sometimes during protests, you see they're saying, oh, change your VPN, oh, change da 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 da. Kenyans are very innovative and creative. So I think even if that would happen, they'll still find a way.
It's also the level of dependency that we have on the internet.
Yes.
That your day-to-day life, without your WhatsApp, without your social media, all that, then you can't even work properly.
Yes.
And that is what happened, I think, in Nepal. That once the internet was shut down, then you could do nothing else. You can't stay at home because all your entertainment is based on the internet. Your work is based on the internet. Once you shut that down, everyone flows onto the streets and it changes the game. So that probably is what could happen in Kenya. Yeah.
On the top strip, governors push for control of bursaries. That story is on page 5. People in politics, news that moves with you, and that's the People Daily.
All right. Tuangazie masuala ya biashara sasa. They're talking about cheapest loans, and we do have a physical copy here of the Business Daily. Cheapest and costliest banks for personal loans revealed. Kama wewe unaenda, the cost of borrowing, kama uko CDN Bank and you borrow 100,000, you will pay 31,100
More.
as interest. Yes, that's the cost of borrowing. Guardian Bank, 28,050. Access, 24,700. Equity, 23,785.
Wow.
Stanchart, 15,000. Habib Bank, AG Zurich, 12,750. So if you need to know which banks are affordable, are offering affordable loans, grab yourself a copy of the Business Daily today. They have the cheapest and the costliest banks for personal loans. So Habib Bank has the lowest charges for a 100,000 shilling loan. CDN and Guardian banks ranked the most expensive. Sio mimi nimesema, iko hapa kwa ukurasa wa mbele wa Business Daily. More protests in Tanzania city after chaotic poll. Police in Tanzania fired tear gas and gunshots on Thursday to disperse groups of protesters who returned to the streets a day after a general election marred by violent demonstrations. Now kuna picha pale ya what is happening there. On the ticker, where investors face higher budgets in construction projects, EABL royalties to parent firm Diageo hit record 2.2 billion shillings, and equity profit rises 33% on lower deposit costs. And that's the Business Daily.
All right.
Once again, today being the youth perspective on State of the Nation, we have these young Kenyans: Kiprori Brian, Rejoice Mutheo Mwambia, Nick Mwangi, Kuna Njima Castro, Njamio Blanche, and Felix Terer. They'll be here to take a look and to try and understand ni nini kinafanyika kwa jirani. In a few minutes' time, do stand by for that. And DJ Kicks is also in the house, being a feel-good Friday. DJ Kicks naona tayari yuko kwenye studio. Tayari yuko kwenye studio hapa. Muziki inazidi kunoga.
Good morning, DJ. Good morning.
Good morning too.
Uko ready? Uko ready?
Yeah.
Talk to our viewers. Wanakusikia.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, let's take a look at the caricatures now. And this is the Star. Jubilee NSC meeting took place yesterday.
Wame-unveil their competitor pale. Wamefungua, walikuwa wamemfunika na leso, wamemfungua. Kasema, surprise, wakamfungua. Ni kama tukuwa tunajua.
We've been knowing.
Tulijua kabla hata mwanzi. Yes,
that's the Star.
It's the same story there on this cartoon on the Daily Nation. Our candidate all along has been, but we knew. There's nothing new there. Jubilee Party. Hata wale wenye walikuwa nangangana kuchukua, I like the caricature. Inacheki ako pale kwa kona hata anaangalia in shock.
This is the Daily Nation?
That's the Daily Nation.
Okay. All right, this is the People Daily.
No, the Standard.
Okay. The Standard leo wanaongelea mambo mengine tofauti sana. There's a tab here labeled economic growth. Kuna mama pale anajaribu kuchota apate some benefits to it, but the government painted here yellow and green. Anakunywa sawa sawa.
Ananyonya yote straight from the tap. Whatever is getting to you is what is dripping from their mouth. Yeah.
Ile kidogo.
Angeweza kushika yote hata isi drip haupati kitu. Finally, the cartoon on the People Daily. Kuna pale Kenya in a hand over baton to Tanzania in March's election. Ile baton ya violence. But once again, I'd like to remind you that the fact that we do not have internet or news outlets working in Tanzania, we still do not know the extent of what's happening in that country. Tunapata tu tidbits hapa na pale, lakini there's a lot that could be happening inside Tanzania. Yes.
We're very quiet about what's happening in Sudan.
In?
in Sudan, the genocide happening in Sudan.
It's because we don't share a common border with Sudan.
But still,
Yeah, wako a bit mbali
I know
kidogo.
RSF, you know, they were here some time back, so I think it will only be proper if, but anyway.
Proximity. Wako mbali kidogo. Tanzania ile ukiangalia ile distance tunakava kwa boda yao kutoka huko Loitoktok mpaka huko Kuria. It's a very long one.
I think it's interesting to me because WHO also commented about it.
Okay.
Yeah, a number of people who've died in hospitals, now that they're following them in hospitals. Well, you know, I follow WHO a lot.
If at all we are still interested in what's happening in the Middle East, we should also be interested in what's happening in Sudan.
Yes, in Africa.
In Africa.
All right. Do interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. On X at TV47 Digital. My handle on X is at @Ann_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe TV47.
All right, my handle on X is at Fred Indimuli. Remember to use that hashtag and get it correct. Morning Cafe TV47.
All right.
All right, see you after the break.
No, DJ,
Oh, DJ, you go.
what do you have in store for us today?
So today, being the last Friday of the month, I want to just have some vibes, some good vibes. Yes,
Tujitayarishe na viatu, dancing shoes.
kabisa.
I hope there are things that are danceable.
Yeah, we must kickstart the weekend in a style.
All right. And happy birthday to Bansi Kimuyu. See you after the break.
No more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Omar every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. Only on TV47. Full body workouts, zero equipment, maximum results. Start strong, stay strong. TV47 Fitness with Coach Shadrach. Only on TV47. Looking for the perfect way to kick off your weekend?
Pole. Hiyo ni salamu ya Mluya kabisa.
Tune in to Friday with Betty, the most exciting show on TV.
Betty, one tear gun. Betty, I don't know where this guy's going.
Walikutoka.
From the latest news and trends to unforgettable moments.
Hiyo nao nakubali.
Wewe ni simpa.
Friday with Betty is your go-to show for a fabulous Friday night.
Theological, meteorologist. What is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV47. Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories.
This is Kenya's #1 talk show, Dr. Frederick tonight. My name is the Eagle himself. Dr. Frederick is my name.
We are flipping the script, but guess what? Or should I say, guess who is taking over tonight's show?
Anyway, furahia umekaa na kasipuni. CP unit ni Punet.
So you guys knew about...
Piga.
Sawa basi. Sema, I gave you the whole time.
I don't want to go back to brokenness.
Never.
I just love the high life. Siwezi taka kuimagine ati nimesota.
You'll have to watch to find out. Tune in every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m.
Next time you need fresh lemon juice, microwave a lemon for 7 to 10 seconds. Then
while Dar es Salaam was under curfew last night, protesters in Arusha, Dodoma and Mwanza continued with the protest for the better part of the night, just hours after the polls marred with violent protests ended. And for a second day, Tanzanians woke up to protest in the neighborhoods of Dar es Salaam, Arusha and Mwanza. These areas witnessing thousands of people on the road protesting against the election that was held yesterday. Gunshots rented the air in Mwanza, Dodoma and Dar es Salaam for the better part of the day, and its roads closed and under heavy guard, with reports of many people injured and shot.
Kuna watu kama 100 ambao wamepigwa risasi, hatuna hakika ikiwa wamepoteza maisha yao ama wamelemazwa ama wako katika hali gani.
Also, for a second day, Tanzanians remained offline following the internet shutdown yesterday, the escalating situation prompting government to order public servants to work from home following yesterday's curfew order. But despite this situation, the Electoral Commission in Tanzania continued with the electoral process. Through the national broadcaster, the commission announced that Samia Suluhu Hassan is leading with 96.99% of the votes in 8 constituencies out of 272.
The international community, and especially the East African region, must not remain silent as democracy and human life are trampled upon.
Meanwhile, the European Parliament has expressed serious concern about the general elections held in Tanzania, urging democratic parties to defend democracy and human rights in Tanzania.
The end goal would be to see all 3 of these dictators, Museveni, Ruto and Suluhu, processed and prosecuted. Not any problems with witnesses disappearing, but fully prosecuted and incarcerated by the ICC.
With curfews enforced, protests spreading and communication lines cut, Tanzania's post-election turmoil has drawn global attention. And as the results trickles in, the world watches closely. Sheila Chelangat for TV 47.
At the usually busy Namanga border post, frustration and fury are rising. Hundreds of travelers and truck drivers were Thursday morning stopped from entering Tanzania, a move that quickly sparked demonstrations on the Kenyan side.
Sisi hatuna uhusiano wote na hiyo uchaguzi wa Tanzania, na imetupata kwa bahati mbaya kwamba imetuingizia hata sisi hasara.
Hii maandamano, wale wanaandamana wanakuja huku, vijana wanachanganyikana. So Wakenya wanaumia, au maaskari wanarusha vitu huku Kenya, na inasababisha sana biashara iadhirike.
Residents accused Tanzanian authorities of imposing what they call an unannounced restriction, blocking cross-border movement. The protest turned chaotic, with youth lighting bonfires and police moving in to disperse crowds. Shops and transport businesses were temporarily shut down as the tension escalated.
Ile njia utazuia kutoumia, usikaribia wapi? Pale kwa mpaka. Kenya ambayo imerushwa usikimbile ushuke, ukitaka kurusha wapi tena huko? Huko, sababu itakuumiza.
In response to the unrest, Interior Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omola warned Kenyans against attempting to cause chaos along the border points.
Anyone who might want to be engaged or participate in any form of protest or demonstrations, let's do what the law allows us to do.
Speaking in Mombasa, Omolo said anyone found breaching peace will be dealt with according to the law, adding that Kenya's security agencies remain on high alert to maintain law and order.
Our officers are competent enough to deal with any situations. If there would be any inconveniences in terms of movement of cargo and people, I believe that the officers at our points of entry and exit must be able to advise those who are moving.
With traders counting losses and travelers stranded, attention now turns to diplomatic and security channels between Nairobi and Dodoma to find a swift solution and prevent further escalation. With 2 people nursing gunshot wounds and business operations paralyzed, both governments are under pressure to de-escalate tensions and restore calm along Kenya-Tanzania border.
Imepita mpaka juu sasa, kama mpaka wa Kenya wanashutiwa, kuna wale walikuwa wanaangalia tu, kwa hawakuwa wanaenda kuingia kwa maandamano.
Authorities in both Kenya and Tanzania are expected to issue official statements on the situation at the Namanga border later tonight. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Yes, Tanzania decides on for the second day running protests and death reported all across Tanzania, even as they continue receiving provisional results from the elections of October 29th. The provisional results continue showing that Samia Suluhu Hassan already has a massive lead. The papers in Kenya, meanwhile, just focusing on what's happening there. Tanzania on edge, the front page of the Daily Nation. The Standard, darkness in Dar. Alafu Taifa Leo anasema Tanzania gizani. The story is also featured on the bottom strip of the Star this morning. Tanzania on the brink as protests rock election day. Definitely big news in Kenya. Again, I remind you, we're still not able to get any news directly from Tanzanian journalists. The newspapers there, we can't get them because the internet for the second day remains shut down. Today being a Friday, it is a youth perspective. It will be interesting to get to know what they feel about what's happening in a neighboring country. Beginning on my immediate right, Nick Mwangi, who's a Secretary General, Kenya Ahadi Party. Karibu sana, Nick.
Morning.
Next to Nick, we do have Gakuna Njima Castro. He's a political scientist and also the founder of the National People's Guard. Karibu sana, Bwana Castro.
Thank you.
Behind Castro, we have Rejoice Mutheo Mwambia, who's a community and youth leader. Karibu sana.
Asante.
And Kipkorir Brian, chairperson UDA National Youth Congress, also joins us this morning. Good morning.
Asante.
Na karibu sana. Ladies and gentlemen, interesting times. We've not seen this in Tanzania. And even when similar things were happening in Kenya, they looked at us in shock. And they were wondering how possible this is. I think in Uganda, they also shocked at the events in Kenya last year. There was a very small attempt to copy what was happening in Kenya. They were not successful. Did you anticipate this level of disruption of an election in Tanzania, Nick?
Well, a very good morning, Fred. And the events happening in Tanzania are very saddening. Because when you go back to history, when John Pombe Magufuli, the late president, died on March 21st, 2021, there was a huge tussle. Who should become the next president? Was it the current then Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa, or is it the sitting Deputy President Samia Suluhu, who comes from a small village in Zanzibar? And the huge tussle was back and forth, and then the retired president, Jakaya Kikwete, had to step in and had to push in Samia Suluhu to read the speech of the late president, and sooner or later, Samia was sworn in as a sitting president. Now, Samia's huge shortcoming came in whereby he started hearing rumors that she might lose the upcoming elections of Tanzania 2025. So she comes up with trumped charges about treason to Tundu Lissu. Tundu Lissu is in prison, but he commands a lot of force. He's pushing people to the edge and telling Tanzanians that, look, we are tired of governments that oppress people. We are tired of governments that have not been functional. So Tundu Lissu has been fighting for Tanzania for a long time. And unfortunately for Samia, she knew that she was going to lose the elections to Tundu Lissu. So she has him in jail. And things start boiling. Things start railing up in Tanzania. Today as we speak, it's nothing as a shocker for most Tanzanians or for Samia Suluhu, because she has created her own tragedy. She has created her own misery. And unfortunate for her that, you know...
So they saw it coming?
They saw it coming. Mm-hmm. She has been creating her own trouble for herself. Because if, I don't know if Fred, if Samia was very competent, then she would not have to worry about Tundu Lissu.
Okay, okay. Now, even the members of the European Parliament yesterday issued a statement condemning the kind of elections witnessed in Tanzania, meaning that this is going to receive a lot of global condemnation as well. Yet the president in Tanzania seems steadfast and pushing through with this. What do you feel will happen going forward? This is unprecedented, the level of violence that we're seeing in Tanzania.
Sure, thank you, friend. And I also join leaders and people in the world in condemning, as the founder of the National People's Guard, I also join them in condemning Samia Suluhu's actions in Tanzania. It is very unprecedented, especially when we have a country that is ruled by a constitution, a country that they worked and they came from a journey with Mwalimu Julius Nyerere of building a socialist community that is living together, united, na ndio ikaitwa muungano wa Tanzania, because it is a country that has Zanzibar and has mainland Tanzania, but these people have been united by the communal or the socialist policy that Mwalimu Nyerere brought on board. So now you can see the danger that Samia Suluhu has brought to that country. It might not recover, it might not be the same Tanzania that we used to see. And you can see that danger is because one individual or a team of people just want to manipulate the constitution, and they do not want to respect the voice of the people, they do not want to listen to the voice of the people, but they want to decide by themselves on how a country can be run. You know, the problem with African leaders, and many of them, and in this society, I have seen some of the communication team of our president saying that Kenya, we should be very proud, or we should be very happy that we have, even if we have problems in our country, at least we have democracy. But I can tell them there is nothing to be happy about, because that is guaranteed in our constitution. It is something we have to live in. There is nothing that is guaranteeing us, because that is guaranteed. We have a collective way, rules and laws that collectively as people of Kenya live in. And we have decided that democracy is our way of governance. So it is not the president who feels that he will give us democracy or decides to give us democracy. That is something we live with. And when you see now such kind of leaders manipulating the constitution so that they can rig their ways into election, of course now you understand now the people, because it is the people who matter most. Those people from Tanzania or any other people in a certain given state will want their voice to be heard, will want their voice to be considered. But Samia Suluhu and the team CCM don't want to consider a competition, didn't want to consider the voices of other, maybe the majority or maybe the minority, because we cannot conclude that the election was free and fair. Much of the people that they came in the streets, they did not vote, especially the young people, because they are the people in the streets. And now there is a discussion of mainland wanting to secede from Zanzibar. Now you can see a minor decision, a disrespect of a constitution, how it can cause people to actually disintegrate, it can make people to actually disunite. Okay. Those are two states or two lads, because there is an island and the mainland, that have been united, was united by a vision of one man, and those people have been living in peacefully and coexisting peacefully, but you might see going forward that those two states might not see each other an eye for an eye. For you to go to Zanzibar, they might even require those passports, and you can see that decision when it comes to there, because people are fighting to have their own leader, because the mainland want them to have their own leader, and then the Zanzibar, or where Samia Suluhu comes from, want to retain it.
Brian, could we try and examine the cross-border influence that Kenya may have had in this? At some point, when activists crossed the border into Tanzania, and I remember the administration in Tanzania told them, mupeleke hiyo tabia yenu mbaya kwenyu nyumbani. Was that a deluded feeling that Tanzania was immune from this kind of action? And could this just as well be a result of some of the influence that our Tanzanian neighbors have gotten from us in the last few months or so?
Thank you so much, Fred. From that, I can say that the effect itself, where we had a demonstration in Kenya, we participated and also demonstrated on our democratic rights, that is something that the Tanzanians have emulated from Kenya. And that is something that even if you look back to during the World War time, you see the country whom there were close borders, particularly could form alliances at the time, because it brings the history. Why is it that your neighbor, whichever is sided with one ally, then it becomes very easier in terms of the sphere of influence. So from that, we can see that the effect of our demonstration, the effect of using digital tools, the effect of calling a spade, whatever in any instance where you see a leader is not backsliding democracy. So that's something that the Tanzania has learned from us, and we hope that they learn more. And at the same time, we are hoping that whatever that presided there, we hope that they will resolve it and they will have peace. But at the same time, we must remember that Julius Nyerere fought for Ujamaa, and to ensure that the CCM party rise beyond tribal lines and become a national party. But as you observe the way Samia Suluhu is doing, then is backsliding democracy that was forged by the late Julius Nyerere. So these are the things that also it concerns Tanzanians. And remember, Samia Suluhu is born and baked in Zanzibar, which now is like a minority region in Tanzania. So sometimes to convince the entire vast Tanzania itself, it becomes very difficult. So that's why you find he resolved to these kind of tactics of jailing opponents, suppressing them through the cutting off the social media, because they don't want people to express themselves. So this kind of tactics comes from people who are desperate to win power, and by that chance, we don't know even if she won it, because probably maybe no one voted for her. So I'm asking myself, what kind of a person? You are anyone going to vote for you? The only name they are seeing is just Suluhu, Samia, Suluhu. So it's kind of contrary to what we expect at this generation and at this time of open space for world, where other countries are progressively and competing on basis of merit and the kind of ideologies that they want to do for their country.
Rejoice, what does this do to female politicians? Because if she's elected, then she becomes the very first female president in this, elected female president in this region. Yet the kind of repression, the level of repression you're seeing in Tanzania, no one would have expected that to come from a female leader. Do you feel disappointed that probably the person who had the potential of assuming that level of female leadership is the one being accused of repression at this level?
Thank you, Fred, and good morning, Kenya. First of all, I would like to correct the fact that leadership is not a gendered agenda. And therefore, every time we look at leadership, we must not look at it from the lens of gender, because leadership is just leadership. And first of all, I want to congratulate my fellow youths and our brothers and sisters from Tanzania. Congratulations. It is indeed a proof that the young people of Africa, of East Africa, of Kenya, of Tanzania, they are no longer spectators in the political space. They're no longer spectators in the building of the nation. You know, Fred, early this year in April, I was in Uganda with fellow Tanzanians, and okay, it was a program for young politicians in Africa. And I remember the youths from Chadema party, that is Tundu Lissu's party, they were saying no reforms, no elections. And the counterparts from CCM, they were saying that October tunatiki. And today it's October. Actually, the elections were yesterday. And I'm proud because the young people were able to keep their words. There are indeed no reforms, no elections. And as far as my personal opinion, I'm concerned, Tanzania did not have an election yesterday. And the leadership of Tanzania, the President Suluhu, must really stand true to the spirit of democracy and to the spirit of true leadership and declare that yesterday there were no elections. I mean, if Tanzania goes ahead to rely on yesterday's elections, then I don't know where we'll be headed as a continent and also as a region and a community, the East African community.
It's interesting that you say that leadership has nothing to do with gender, but we've heard, and the kind of affirmative action that we see, even on our side here, especially when it comes to gender, that we feel, or there's this general feeling or promise that female leadership would be better. But is that a fact?
Affirmative action is a fact. As a matter of fact, I am vying for women rep in Machakos County, a position that came courtesy of affirmative action. But Fred, perhaps even in 2050 or 2060s there, the affirmative action might be towards the men. You know, the affirmative action is about having to that gender of in the houses of representation not being more than, not being one gender, you know. Like if we have, like let's say in the Senate, in the Parliament, we should have like one gender being at least a two-third. So affirmative action, it is not geared towards just the women. Maybe, Fred, in 2050, we shall have the men representative position because women will be the majority in the houses of representation. That is why I stand to be corrected. And I still insist that leadership is not a gendered agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back to take a look at the different demographics because at some point they're saying that we need to do away with the older generation from leadership and the younger generation be allowed to lead. There's also the argument about gender, that female leadership is better than male leadership, that probably it's more humane. But what you're seeing in Tanzania, and karibu sana Njamio Blanche, she's a youth leader, karibu sana to this conversation as we continue examining and the aftermath of the elections, and the issues, okay, probably will come to you later, but do you think the issue of gender, Nick, comes into play? Are you shocked that under a female president, after Tanzania has had about 5 male presidents, that the level of suppression appears to have gone higher? Or repression, for that matter?
I will try very hard, Fred, not to be cancelled this Friday. Gender has always been a very sensitive topic in this country. However, I want to agree with many regards with Rejoice. In as much as we are still coming up as a country or as East African community, a leader should be judged or should be based not as who she is, whether male or female, but what she's been doing, what he or she has been doing. Has he performed? Has he or she lived to their manifesto? Are they willing to show leadership in the country? And the unfortunate situation in Tanzania, it was Tanzanians were caught in between majority and minority kind of competition, because there's Zanzibar and the mainland. Zanzibar has its own sitting president as an island, and Samia happens to come from Zanzibar as well. So the mainland has been feeling that, look, we are getting ruled by a minority population. So this cannot happen. So fire to put what is it, fuel in the fire. Samia decides to make a wrong move. He decides to jail the opponent. And I was very amused when Brian was saying that, you know, Samia jails opponents. Yet this is the same thing that is happening here in Kenya. That his boss, his party leader does the same. Like literally, he has been doing the same, kidnapping people, threatening people with lawsuits, pushing people with unknown men, a lot of kidnappings that are happening. These are things that Kenyans, Tanzanians are saying that enough is enough. We cannot have demagogues who are ruling these nations.
Yes.
We need to get right leaders.
All right, and I still insist on this gender question because I know it always comes up, and we want to demystify the fact that a female leader could be better or could be probably handle leadership in a different way. It is the first time we're seeing in this region a female leader was ascended to that level of leadership in any country. And if that is what we are demystifying, let's do it, all of us then. Do you agree that, yes, gender does not really determine how a leader acts?
Yeah, sure, I agree. In fact, I support what Regius Mudeo says, that there's no gender agenda. You said there's no agenda?
Leadership is not a gendered agenda.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because I think the most important thing as a person is the personality of the president or the leader that, of course, occupies that office. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter, especially when you understand the assignment that you have come to office to do, and you understand your people. Because the most important thing here is to understand your people and how you can serve them better. But you know, the problem we have with Samia and the rights of the presidents we have in East Africa, in fact, now our community or East African community is losing meaning. And it is losing meaning when our president is the chairman of the community. So it is a very shameful events that are happening. If you look at even what is happening in Sudan, and we have our name, Kenya, has been tagged to all those madness. But the issue of any gender does not really determine how or who is the best leader than the other. I think to give just an example, we would require a leader who follows the law to the due course, of course. And when we are guided and when we abide and respect the people, you know, you respect the people, respect the laws that abide those people, respect their lives and property, respect their decision, because people are supreme. Mm-hmm. But we have a tendency of authoritarianism in our region. You know, the hierarchy of leadership or the hierarchy of that community, it is the people at the top. Yes. Because it is the people at the top, and then we have our members of parliament who represent the people. And then we have the president, and then his people who works and assists him. Now the cabinet secretaries and the PSs. But these people, they have converted the other way. They start with the president, and then the cabinet secretaries, then the MPs and us to go up kwa ground. And then when we revert, we tell them now skiza ground, though they want to skiza the top where they are, so they want just to listen to themselves and say to themselves. So issue of gender, it's not really a matter or a question that we have really to discuss, because we are living in one community, one environment as people, and I don't think women or men are living in isolation. We are living together, united and in union over one issue. Whatever issue that is affecting the Tanzanians, it is affecting both male and female citizens. So it is not an issue of any gender in leadership.
We've had Pigia Mama. That has a different kind of feeling when you tell a child mama as opposed to baba. Yes?
Yeah.
This is what female politicians have been using. Pigia Mama. And they've used that tag name of Mama Maito across board. Sure. Meaning that probably a female leader would approach leadership differently. And probably the belief that an autocracy cannot be led by a female. That is what we are trying to see, that a female leader cannot be a dictator. Do you agree, Blanche, that yes, this is the perfect opportunity for us to demystify that kind of myth, that a female leader does not necessarily mean that they cannot be dictatorial?
Oh yes, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm happy that Tanzania finally is getting their voice, especially the youth. And I think it's across Africa. Africa is awakening. In our generation, I feel like the previous leaders and the previous government regimes that have been there have invested heavily on education. And the current leaders who feel entitled to top leadership position, especially the presidency, as in our case here in Kenya, and of course many countries in Africa are not ready to deal with learned youths, to deal with professionals, people who understand how, who can interpret a constitution, who can actually just interpret laws and policies as opposed to our parents. Our presidents, I feel like they're not ready to deal with this generation, because I believe we are learned, we are professionals, we are smart, we're able to tell between dictatorship and democracy. And well done, Tanzania. That was quite impeccable. Fighting for their rights, standing for their rights. It's quite good to see.
Yes, and it's interesting that you've avoided that issue of gender altogether. But anyway, I do understand the discomfort that it comes with. But definitely, female politicians may no longer be able to tell us that Mama is better than any male politician. Allow us to take a short break, Castro. Yes, and we'll come back to continue with this. Do you believe that a female leader is better than a man? You're watching Morning Cafe, today being the youth perspective, and we're considering what's happening in Tanzania. We'll be back in a short while.
No more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Ouma every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. only on TV 47. Full body workouts, zero equipment, maximum results. Start strong, stay strong. TV 47 Fitness with Coach Shadrach only on TV 47. Looking for the perfect way to kick off your weekend?
Pole. Hiyo ni salamu ya Mluya kabisa.
Tune in to Friday with Betty, the most exciting show on TV.
Betty, one tear gas. Betty, I don't know where this guy's going.
From the latest news and trends to unforgettable moments.
Wewe ni simpa.
Friday with Betty is your go-to show for a fabulous Friday night.
Theological, meteorologist. What is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV 47. Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV 47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories.
Yes, welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. Being a Friday, it is a youth perspective. A lot being talked about from the other side of the border in Tanzania, and that's what we're looking at with these young Kenyans. And I think, Brian, you're the only one who's not talked about this gender issue. I want to see how you're going to evade this question about gender. There's always that feeling that probably one gender is better than the other. The same kind of debate that we have about intergenerational competence, that there's one generation that's probably politically more competent than the other. When it comes to gender, do you believe that yes, it is time, from the examples we are seeing, we demystify the fact or the myth that one gender could make better leadership than the other?
I will also go in line with what you have said. Leadership knows no gender, and the values of personality in terms of whom they are, it supersedes the fact that whether you are elected or not elected, on the way that you'll act in accordance with the provided policies and the framework of the Constitution. So for me, there is no any gender that is better than the other, but at the same time, we must look into aspect of which kind of a person we are electing, because I feel, is this person representing the center left or center right? So those are the kind of the issues that we must see. We can see our neighbors here, whereby they are led by Samia Suluhu. She's a woman, yes, but at the same time, she's disregarding the constitution that was fought for, where the founding fathers of that nation had put the principality of ensuring that the Ujamaa itself exists in a way that is supposed. You can look, for instance, another president who is a female president from Namibia. Perfect example on how she has ensured that the country itself has been put in a trajectory where they perhaps having the economical renaissance, and also put the country in the forward state to ensure that they're in global stage to harness the digital world, at the same time putting the country of where they respect the democracy, but at the same time putting clearly that irrespective of the gender that you come into power, if you are the person of values, you have the person who needs to transform that country, then it means the goal remain unshaken and you'll remain on board, and will ensure that whatever that you came for in the purpose, you'll deliver your every issue. So, and that is something that also we need to understand from the leadership perspective, but at the same time, from the electoral, we must also get this, demystify these issues of mama, baba, those kind of things. We must also rise beyond it and see from the angle of what does our country need? Does our country need a gender, of specific gender to lead us? No. But what exactly do we need? We need the kind of a person who is going to respect the Constitution. We need the kind of a person who is going to ensure that we get the bread that we deserve. So these are the kind of issues that we must understand, first of all, like leaders, but again, those who are going to vote for us must rise beyond the gender, tribal lines, and regional aggregates for itself.
Indeed, going forward, we should not use gender as a yardstick for leadership. There are better things to look at, and that's across board. Okay, fine. So let's now come back and take a look at the kind of actions that we're seeing in Tanzania. And we're seeing an internet shutdown for the second day running. This is the same thing that had different kind of results in Nepal, that shutting down the internet probably resulted in so many young people flooding the streets because they had nothing to do, either at home or on their mobile phones. Do you think that that's contributed largely to the level of violence we're seeing in Tanzania? Because we've had the same threats in our own situation here in Kenya, that we could actually shut the internet at some point. Rejoice.
Okay, like shutting down the internet. You know, last time I was here, I insisted that the leaders that we have in the current regime, for instance in Kenya and across East Africa and Africa, they're so detached from the reality of their people. Like when you shut down the internet to assume that now you'll stop the young people from coming out of the streets, I want to repeat to the African leaders, to the East African leaders, to Tanzania, to Kenya, that the reason the young people, the reason this generation is so keen on their kind of leadership is not because they are idle. You know, the fact that the leaders have not been able to solve the challenges affecting young people, such as unemployment. It is not our conclusion that the young people are idle. No, the young people, we are very intentional about changing our nations, about changing our region. The young people want better. And that is why, even though President Samia actually banned X, that is Twitter, in Tanzania, the Tanzanian young people, youths, are still using VPN to ensure that they are online, to ensure that their voices are heard. And I would still even repeat, and even right now in our country, we are experiencing such a trajectory. You've seen the cybercrime bill that is coming to, you know, to deny us, to take the right of expression from us Kenyans. We are not going to keep quiet. There's no amount of threat that will stop this generation from wanting better for Africa, for our countries. And so shutting down the internet would not help.
Okay, and this could be happening at different levels, restricting the flow of information, Blanche. The feeling in Kenya, for example, is that Cybercrime Act, which is now law, that is also an attempt to try and restrict information, at least some of the provisions. It's not entirely off, but some of the clauses and provisions within that law that it may probably lead to a restriction at whatever level of information. Do you think that can work in 2025? Is it possible to restrict the flow of information in this day and era?
A simple answer is no. And I have to say this, our government, especially the parliamentarians, I feel like they have this tendency of sort of not delivering as per their duties and works. And then to that, they come up with a bill to sort of protect themselves. And that kind of fuels rage to the people. And it actually does not help. Coming up with a cybercrime bill at the moment, I don't know, I think copying China, they're copying the wrong things. It should bring things that are going to set Kenya on a very smooth and a functional kind of direction in terms of service delivery. This a famous MP, I don't know, he's called Jahir or someone. He's the one who tweeted and said that he feels that we should copy China on the cybercrime bill, sort of to somehow, I don't know, to curb wrong information and crimes that are done on the internet. I sort of feel like our country can do better, and they should work on mending the relationship between the people and the leaders, instead of looking for things that are going to continue to drift the country apart.
Okay.
Because I feel like everyone has lost faith with the government to some point, because everything that they keep on introducing, it's set to sort of affect the common mwananchi in a negative way, to sort of protect the leaders the way they are in a group. And I feel like that gap should be mended. They should look for things that should mend instead of setting people apart.
Yet how do we strike the balance? Because there's a need for any state and any administration to ensure security, even in the cyberspace. That there are issues about cyberbullying, there are issues about fake information, misinformation and disinformation. That it is a responsibility of the state to ensure that even that is countered or checked. But now we see that many people will complain that some of those provisions could also lead to a stifling of the flow of communication, and in essence just beat the flow of information and beat the right and freedom of expression. But where do you strike a balance?
Fred, one thing I want to disagree completely with Samia Suluhu this morning. The fact that she decided to switch off the internet was a lack of faith to the processes and to the people of Tanzania. I am not so sure who is advising her at the moment, because the best way to disintegrate and to demystify the element of election malpractice was to allow the flow of internet, from the counting of votes, from the streaming in of people from different places. The fact that she decided to do a national, Tanzania is a big country, a national blackout, was so misinformed that this will cost Tanzania for a long time, because we are moving into the space whereby things are now live and online. And Tanzania is going back to backward kind of democracy. And it's very unfortunate that we still there also we are as a country, because when the Gen Zs, the Gen Zs were on the street, we saw the president had such kind of intentions of switching off the internet. However, he did it in a very calculative way, whereby he went on switching off live mainstream medias, so that people could not follow what's happening on the street. But the unfortunate thing is, something about internet, it keeps evolving by the day, and sooner or later people will be able to provide internet services for themselves. When we reach at that place, Fred, what will the government be doing? Because instead of the government taking a lot of time to build faith in the systems and in the people, they are taking that moment to destroy it, Fred. And it's very unfortunate that it also takes me back to 2027. What will happen when we get there as a country? Will the president want to switch off the internet now that he's clearly seen that all indications are showing that he's going home? Fred, those are the conversations that we young people are saying, that this is the time that we are learning from Tanzanians that, look, this our president that we currently have can decide to pull such kind of gimmicks.
Do you think it can work in Kenya, Castro, that probably if things get to a place where they get a bit dicey, that the state could decide, okay, fine, we saw it happen in Tanzania, just switch off the internet? Do you think it would work in our situation?
Of course, that would be their next option, and I can tell you maybe it is on their table, but it will be the hardest thing here in Kenya, because as I know, and as young people said, whether we shall go back to traditional ways, communication shall be made and young people shall mobilize themselves in however means that they will use. And it is very, very absurd that when we should be planning to have a progressive bills that would actually accommodate people now into governance, we are now trying to scare them away by trying to curb even the spaces where they would have felt in. Remember, this is our constitution has not been, we have not fully exploited it, and it is a time young people, they are learning now the power they have guaranteed by the constitution. But because these people have never experienced such kind of a people, they have never experienced enlightened generation that is actually defending and of course guarding their rights and their freedoms from the constitution. They have never experienced that. And you know, their best friends, UDA party, the best friend of that party is the Communist Party of China. And you know, that is the trade. That's where they are learning these all manners of the governance that they are putting. Because I told you, our constitution guarantees democracy, and that is our way of governance as Kenyans. But them, they have copied the Communist Party. Now they have built their own system of governance, and they want the people to follow there or to follow them. We cannot be in that, we cannot be party of their governance system that is not stipulated, neither dictated by our constitution, because we must remain with our constitution, because that is the divine law that governs our country. So when they plan now to restrict people from communicating. I can tell you it is the worst decision that any leader can, at this moment, at this generation can do. And because once you tell your people not to speak out, the next thing you are asking them is to murmur. And when they will murmur by themselves and amongst themselves within their own communities and within their own platforms, the next thing you know that it is a rage that will happen. So because these people, they will pile those murmurs, they will pile, and then they will have a rage. That's the same thing that is happening with Tanzania. We never knew Tanzania to be such kind of, to have such kind of a violence, or they would react in such a manner. But these people, they have actually been tabling their demands, of course, their grievances, they have been talking, but it's running in a poor or a deaf ear. And if not a deaf ear, then it's a poor listener. And that's the problem we are having in today's community and society and the governments that we are having today, that they are copying the bad system. You know, we have a socialist, those people who fought for democracy in our legions, they were social democrats. And these social democrats, it's a two worlds apart with the communists. So when they are trying to bring us back to the communist way, there is a big war and a big revolutionary war, because the people, because now in a state it is the people matter, because you don't build a state without building the people. And that's why so many people are not sharing their dream or sharing their vision, because for them, they left the people thinking they rule the people, but it is the people otherwise who should dictate, or who should actually put their voice into the dream of our country. Because as people, we have one vision. You know, we have to be happy as people. We need to live harmoniously. We need to be, of course, under the law, and we need to have order. But all those words, they sound obvious, but we are lacking them today. We have no order. We are not living harmoniously. We are people, those that are entrusted with our laws, also even to actually enforce our laws, they are not even doing so. And how do you expect that kind of a society? Of course, it becomes nasty, it becomes ugly.
Okay. Brian, I saw you shaking your head when they were talking about the Cybercrimes Act. Do you believe that probably people have misread it or misinterpreted, because the intention could be different, but the criticism is there? And many Kenyans would feel that, okay, fine, in Tanzania it's a full shutdown, but probably in Kenya there are some subtle attempts to restrict or to try and cut down on the liberties enjoyed within the cyberspace.
I will say this, when it comes to the liberty that we enjoy in the communication space and the freedom of expression, that is something that will never be taken from any Kenyan. And I would love the young people to get to understand this cybercrime amendment bill, because it came into place in the necessity of the kind of issues that have been prevailing in the online space, particularly where people are being bullied, where people are being, their obscene images are being shared on the spaces. Again, matters of cryptocurrency, also protection of the virtual assets. These are the things that it creates that necessity. We want to protect the Kenyans whom they are using the online space to be safe for them, so as to ensure that whatever they are trying to do there is something that go in lines with our constitution, but at the same time it leaves no one in any vulnerable situation. So I would love the young people to invest their time and do a little bit research, because I usually find that most of the time when we criticize these certain kind of provision that we have in our country, we find that we miss a lot, because if someone can understand why is it that there was a problem in terms of necessity to create this law, and what a kind of the solution does it address to. So I want the Kenyans to invest their time in, to understand this kind of a particular bill. It is a bill that is not going to rob anyone's freedom of expression. If you're going today to say, I don't want to vote for this guy, no one will come to you. So these are the kind of the things that we need to understand as the young people. This bill particularly come into place to address issues specifically that have been raised since last year. And this is to curb the generation misinformation and to make sure that people understand exactly what is happening. Because I find it very difficult when people are being insulted, people are being persecuted, the character assassination in terms of whatever they are doing, and then somebody is using the vague language. So these are the kind of things that we need to curb. We need people who can talk on issues that are based in terms of issue-based, not only that they insult someone. So these are the kind of things that we need to curb, and to ensure that for the generation that is coming, our children, the children of this nation, they come into the space where already we have made the party that is very clear for them, not a party that is full of misinformation, full of insult, full of disregarding information in terms of how they view somebody, but they can view somebody in a way that is liberal, but not offending their rights. So these are kind of things we must look into. Also, I want to reply to my brother. UDA party and CPC party are partners to ensure that we transform this country. But that doesn't mean the kind of the ideology that they have in China is the same that we have in Kenya. They are communist, but for us, we are social capitalist. That's something that my brother has to understand. And we are in a better principality. China has their own way of doing their things. But at the same time, we must understand, China is a first world country. Actually, one of the one of the veto in the UN nation. So anything that they do, we must learn from them because they are our partners in terms of transforming Africa and Kenya. So these are things that also we need to learn from them. Again, on the bill that Zahiri Janda proposed, where to curb this misinformation whereby you can only talk on specific subject matters if you are professional of that field. True. I cannot become to be advised to somebody in the internet in terms of matters of to do with health, and you are not a doctor. How is that? A
lot of that is happening on TikTok. I see a lot of people coming to say, if you're having stomach problems, eat these oranges and eat these foods. Are you saying we can criminalize that?
And we have research institutes that can do that. We have professionals.
Is that a restriction on the right of expression?
No, that is not a restriction of right of expression. We have to understand matters of professionalism, they have their own. That's why you cannot go and contest on issues of teaching if you're not a teacher. Why is it that university lecturers are on street? Why is it not police?
MP Babu Owino was teaching mathematics. Are you saying that should be challenged? That simply because he's not a teacher, he should not teach people
online?
Yeah, he's not a teacher. He's not a teacher.
And Fred, that's what we are saying. This government of the day is really misinformed.
No, Fred.
We have representative like Brian saying mischievous and gaslighting things to Kenyans. You see, the other day I saw his boss calling the United Opposition Vichwambaya. So this party wants to come up with rules and regulations that they themselves...
My concern is, do you think such rules, such restrictions will work? That now you can tell people, okay, fine, you're only allowed to talk about this on the internet and not anything else.
And you know, Fred, they are making these laws to curb the opposition, not the government. Because we see each and every day Oscar Sodi coming live on internet and saying insults. So will these rules apply to them as well?
Fred.
It is selective.
No, a minute first. I have not even landed on my point. You see, when Jomo Kenyatta and Jaramogi Oginga and others fighters of this land of ours, one of the issues that they identified was ignorance, disease, and poverty. But I see what is hitting us more than any other generation is ignorance. We cannot say this bill that's coming in place is only for the opposition. While we know very obvious, any rule that come into place, it cut across all of the Kenyans. So we must rise beyond that. We are perceiving something that even we ourselves, we are trying to
restrict the kind of information that we can engage in online. That I want us now, because you are the people who engage on the internet daily. Rejoice, do you think it's possible now to tell people or to police people online and tell them you can only talk about this? You cannot talk about relationships because you probably are not in a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I think this government has very misplaced priorities. And speaking of Mheshimiwa Babu Owino, please allow me to congratulate him. And I think all the other leaders should actually emulate him. Servant leadership. You know how many students benefited from that online class? Quite a number, a lot of young students. And Fred, I want to say that regarding the cybercrime bill and restricting Kenyans, I want to say that political bad manners cannot be corrected by constitutional amendments. It can only be corrected by character and behavioral change. And I think because these are adults in the government, the only way is to change the entire regime.
So because we seem to agree that there are subtle attempts in Kenya to restrict the way you act in the cyberspace.
Yes.
Do you think it's going to work?
It is not going to work, and because I know Kenyans, we are prayerful people and we are praying to God, and we also have the judiciary, the court. It is not going to work. We are hoping that, and we are praying that it is going to be scrapped off. And Fred, You know, I've seen the president going to these rallies, to meetings, and telling Kenyans about how good or bad the cybercrime bill is. And you know, I wonder who advises the president. If today I was the president of Kenya, if I became the president of Kenya today, my first advisors would be the wananchi. Why? How can you be telling Kenyans parents about the demerits and merits of a cybercrime bill while their children have been in their homes for more than 5 to 6 weeks right now because the lecturers are on strike, and the president seems not to be bothered about our state of education. What is wrong with the Kenya Kwanza and the broad-based government? Because if they are comfortable when the lecturers and the university students are at home for more than 6 weeks and they're not bothered, it tells us something is very wrong with this regime.
Yes. It is that attempt to regulate how people interact within the cyberspace that I'm questioning, because this is the first time that we're seeing. It has been for a very long time largely unregulated. But fine, Tanzania may have gone the extreme way of shutting down the entire internet. But we can see other subtle attempts to actually tell you, okay, fine, this space, piga kona hapa, enda namna hii. Blanche, what is your take on that?
I feel like there is the good side and the bad side of that bill. And yeah, it is true, the social media platforms, most especially, are being misused. And I've been seeing a lot of bloggers. There's a way you prepare your content and you post it, and somehow it looks like it is true, while if you dig deeper, it isn't. About regulating on
Yet we do not even attempt to regulate lies or truth in our general discussions everywhere. Why should we do it online? If at all I am a liar and I lie every time out here without regulation, why should I be regulated on how much I can lie online?
However, we can agree. If we're seeking people to be, somehow have an expertise on maybe a certain field that you're advising people, let us also take it to Parliament, to the assemblies. Let them also have a professional background field in whatever maybe cabinet or ministry they are holding. Let that parliamentarian have some sort of an expertise that is so professional he represents in the parliament. Tusitumie tu ni kama tunasema kusongesha goalpost. Mahali wanafika wanahamu wanaenda ndio like they score for themselves and they sort of protect themselves. It is not fair. If you are going to regulate it, even themselves, they misuse the social media quite a lot at hurling insults at certain tribes. Somebody said, Sudi, there's something he said at Wajaluo ni wajinga. That is so wrong. And if at all, in any chance the cyber crime bill should pass, wacha ipite na yeye kwanza. Akuwe kama funzo tu.
Is it possible to criminalize communication on the internet? Do you think it's actually possible, given the fact that not all this communication is controlled from a central point here in Kenya? Isn't it an exercise in futility for any government to decide that we are going to control the internet within our space? It's not like the airspace that planes use.
Fred, first allow me to respond to Brian, because he said young people are ignorant. But I want we school him a little bit. You know, when we are making laws, one of the main things we look at as human beings, what is the motive that we want to cure? And be as it may, so many Kenyans are feeling that the motive of the president is wrong. One, he seems as if he's targeting a certain class of majority or a certain population of political class. And we Kenyans are saying freely, Fred, today that if this law passes and it becomes law as it is today, first, can we now start weeding out people from his government? Can we now see them actually accountable of what they are saying online? That is how we build faith in our institution. But we're in a situation whereby, Fred, I'm making a law today so that I hold you down. I minimize Fred particularly not to talk. I minimize Fred particularly not to move. I minimize Fred particularly not to push his agenda. That's what Kenyans are feeling today, Fred. It's not that we are not elite enough to understand laws. As a matter of fact, so many young people today have gone to school. The president has a lot of time to cure the illness of joblessness, but he's focused on the wrong things. And I agree with Rejoice. Rejoice is saying here that comrades have been out for more than 3 months. Yeah. He's not even concerned about that. But hey, let us sit down and discuss about a law that he is particularly targeting a specifically population, Fred. That is what young Kenyans are feeling, Fred. And we want to support all the clauses that seem to be very sensible, because this is an amendment of 2018 act that was produced during President Uhuru's tenure. And Kenyans are saying that there are certain elements of the bill that make sense, but there are certain elements that don't make sense at all. But above all, what is the motive?
All right. Let's now, as we come towards the end of the show, let's now examine the success or otherwise of the Gen Z movement, which we all agree is a global movement. We've seen what happened in Asia, in places like Bangladesh, in Nepal. We've seen what has happened in other countries in Africa, in Madagascar and elsewhere, because we all agree that when it comes to democracy and the voting patterns, the Gen Z now are the biggest voting bloc, not just in Kenya, but across board. In Kenya, if they get to register, they also become the biggest voting bloc. But we are seeing also that there are some countries that are yet to get onto this bus. Cameroon elected 92-year-old president for an 8th term. Incidentally, the violence that transpired after that announcement has led to the death of more than 5 people there. In Cote d'Ivoire, on the other hand, an 83-year-old has been elected for the 4th term. Now, these are countries in Africa, the same space where we see other presidents like in Malawi and Madagascar and Botswana only getting to serve 1 term and then they're out. Now, when we talk about the Gen Z wave, are we seeing that, yes, there's we're also getting a pushback on the same, that there may be a wave, but it may not necessarily be successful across board?
Of course, there is a Gen Z wave. And before I dive into that question, I would want to dive back to the cyber bill, because the issue here, we have an issue of that they should regulate the people who should be maybe communicating about a certain professionalism. Of course, it is possible in an ideal community. In an ideal society, that is possible, where every person respects the profession and every person respects the law. But in this shaggy environment we are in, politics all over, that the MPs, those are the people that are regulating us from, of course, trying to give our views into our social medias. They're the people who are bullying us, especially in the mashinani, and telling us that, you know, we don't understand anything. And whereas on them, we are trying to understand what they are doing, and we cannot even find anything that they are doing purposely for the people. And you come to understand that it is an issue that we can contend between the parliament and the people, because we have had issues of national security in our country. But those people that are responsible in the Committee of National Security, we don't know whether they are experts in security. So they haven't even given us any issue, or they haven't even advocated for any issue. We had been having cases of the RSF militaries in our country, which is, of course, a compromise to our national security. We have been having issues of cattle rustling in our country. We have been having issues of thuggery and crimes into our city, but they haven't given any comment on that as a People's Committee on Security and Foreign Affairs. The same case, we are having lecturers on strike. We have my friend here, Brian, who is a representative of university students in UDA party. But, you know, he's the one now advocating for this cybercrime, and now he wants to regulate lecturers from, of course, asking for their salary, their rights, and what belongs to them from the government, and because the president is not available to have a sitting with them, he is everywhere campaigning and telling us how the only person who was to compete with him was Raila, and he hasn't seen the real competition because it is him against the people. And now they do not want people now to agitate what is right for you. So of course it is a double standard, and that's exactly why we need to of course also contest Parliament whether they really understand the task they have, or they are actually serving the president other than the people. So when it comes to your question about the Gen Z, of course, this is a very emotive, especially on election period, is a very emotive season where every person wants to participate in politics. But in every country, people are bored. There are those bored by a personality or a person, and there are those bored by the way and their active means. Like in Kenya, we are not bored by one person. There's only one person who boarded people together, and that is Raila Amolo Odinga. So those people, however Raila Odinga would sway, people would follow, of course, Raila. He had his own supporters. But in the community we are in, people have their own interest now. They are understanding and agitating for their own interest. And you see, a case like Cameroon, those are a case that in our generation, like now, them who are same age like us, they have known only one president in their lifetime, of course. And that complicates a little bit because they haven't seen any tough competition amongst the governance.
Same issue with Uganda?
Yeah, same as Uganda, and you can see now Uganda, of course, now the younger generation, now they are trying now to, of course, now see build now Museveni, because if today Museveni now commands, of course, the largest the older population, and Bobi Wine now is commanding the younger population. But that trade will continue until the time when the young people now, they of course grab that power and of course realize even in their streets the power that they have. So for Cameroon, it's an exceptional because, you know, having one president for that long period, of course, you can see maybe that man have entrenched himself so deeply to the people, and you know, and he have
enough to counter the Gen Z wave.
Enough to counter the Gen Z wave. Yeah, there's a way, you know, such kind of dictators, of course, who came before. Before now, people learned how to, of course, counter their leaders, of course, and express their own views, and of course oppose governments. Of course, those leaders now entrenched themselves. The same way with happening with Museveni, you know, to take him down, of course, it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of support for the young people to actually do that. And we need to understand such kind of a society. But for Kenya, one to them.
Brian, I know there's a lot you need to respond to. Many people have actually challenged your standing. But I would also want you to talk about this Gen Z wave and what is transpiring across Africa.
What is happening in Africa is a generational renaissance where they come in place as a literate at the same time as a liberal on matters specifically in the politics sanity of itself. So for me, I will say this. For instance, when you look into Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Uganda, any other country in Africa. So one of the things that I want to understand also as, do the young people understand really what it means when it comes to power contesting and also seeking the highest office in the republic? These are the kind of things that we need to understand, because when it comes to the free and competition, when it comes to this power, sometimes it's not only about the age. Again, it comes with the kind of experience, it comes with the kind of ideologies that you have in your preparation for your manifesto. So sometimes it's not about the hedge. It's what is specifically or matters that are of the importance to the nation that come into place. It's not about the hedge. Because we can have even 120 years old, but it's leading in a way that is supposed. So it's only that there's a edge curve where they're trying to have this shock of leadership. But I know, for instance, in Uganda, I know many people say, you know, Bobi Wine controlled the young people. I will tell you today, Museveni is the one who controls the young people in Uganda. And that is by reality, even to the village. The NRM systems and the grassroots leadership mobilization is very specific on its grassroots leadership structures. So Bobi Wine just control, because the office of Bobi Wine is just behind the university, so people see few students, they think Uganda is controlled by Bobi Wine. If you have been in Uganda like me, then even talk to the young person there at Kampala.
So the Gen Z in Uganda from
Museveni, that is the reality. So these are the things that we need to understand. It's not about the hedge. It's about the kind of the leadership that Museveni is providing for Uganda people.
Right.
And that is something that we have to understand.
Valid point there, Rejoice. What's your comment on this Gen Z wave?
Speaking of Uganda, as a member of, actually I'm a member of the 8th East African Young Parliamentarians, where we are trying to come together as a community, as a region, to address the challenges facing East Africa as a whole. Because again, I would remember that Mheshimiwa Babu Owino the other day, he said that the challenge that a Kenyan a kid faces is the same challenge that a Ugandan kid faces. And please, speaking of Uganda, we have our brothers Nicholas Oyo and Bob Jagi still missing in Uganda. Please, our president, as the head of the East African community, please just fasten their release, because we want them back home. Now, on the Gen Z movement, I have also been equally to Uganda. And speaking of the Gen Z again, thank God, Uganda is going to have the next election in January 2026. And there are so many young people that are going for elective political positions. And in regards to Brian's comment that Eti Museveni controls the Gen Zs of Uganda, I believe the Gen Zs of Uganda are watching this, and they will watch TV47. They will answer him, and they will prove to him come January next year. Yes, and the Gen Z movement, it's there to stay. It is there to change Kenya. It is there to make East Africa better. It is there to make Africa better. We are not relenting. We are not keeping our tools down. The fire is still very much on. Those that are saying that Gen Zs are not taking votes, I am a Gen Z. I voted in 2022, and my vote is very secure. In fact, I confirmed the other day that I'm still registered. And so if President Ruto is trying to say that the Gen Zs do not have votes, President Ruto, you are in for shock. And any other president, including Museveni, saying that Bobi Wine does not control the Gen Z, he will be, even I told you in April, we were in Uganda, and the people were saying October tunatiki, the Tanzanians were saying that. Here's October, did they tick? The Ugandans Gen Z will answer that in January 2026. Yeah.
All right. What's your take, Blanche, on this Gen Z movement across Africa?
There are a few things we need to get clear about the Gen Zs across Africa. Them being, the young generation being termed as the Gen Zs, a lot of negativity comes with it. People think that these are just little kids that are spoiled and they feel entitled to leadership matters that previously were set for maybe an older generation. The only thing Gen Zs are seeking is to hold leaders accountable, basically. That is their #1 mandate, and to kind of bring change in their places where they reside, basically in Africa, in their countries. And let them not tire, if I may say. Let them soldier on. They are going to be the real change of the future Africa.
All right. We saw young Kenyans trying to cross the border into Tanzania. Are we saying whatever is happening in Tanzania has reignited the fire that was there in Kenya?
First, it's very laughable when I hear a young person like Brian saying that it's okay for all people to rule until they die. I want to school him.
I think I need to hold him accountable. I say leadership is not about the head.
I want to school him.
It's the kind of ideology and perspective of how you are going to take this country forward as matters of national republic interest.
I want to school him. Museveni has been in power since 1986. We are in 2025. That is 40 years. Yet Uganda still has no roads. The internet is struggling. Schools are struggling. Their Ugandan shilling is struggling. Yet he sits here and advises us that, yes, it's not about age. It's about the person. Really, Fred? For 40 years, Ugandans have been experiencing the same anguish. 40 years. I expect young people like him to know that he has accused us here before that you are ignorant. We see his ignorance from 40 years. Like, you see, Kenya has had up to 6 presidents. Uganda for 40 years has had 1 president. Yet he's seeking a re-election in 2026. Anyway, I only assume that because they share a party color, you know, the Ghana and
Freddie Ndimuli. My brother has to understand.
Back to the question of Gen Z.
I need to school my brother on one issue. There is something called color coding.
Back to the
and
color.
you can understand color coding. The color of UDA and NRM are very different.
Yeah.
So please, kindly, just understand the color coding.
Back to the issue of the young people, Fred. And it gives me confidence that young people are coming up. Young people are tired of Terenial's leadership. And young people are ready to change their country. Yeah. The reason why we're here this morning, Fred, is because we are passionate about this country. We want to take this country to the next level. Okay. Fred, we are tired of all kind of politics. We want to bring in effective kind of politics. And I think we are getting there, Fred.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I think what we've agreed across board is that it has nothing to do with gender, and to some extent, nothing much to do with age. Yes, it is about the person who's the leader. That has been the youth perspective. Today, having in studio Nick Mwangi, who is the Secretary General, Kenya Ahadi Party. Kipkorir Brian, who's the Chairperson, UDA National Youth Congress. We have Rejoice Mutheo Mwambia, who's a community and youth leader. Kuna Njima Castro, political scientist, also the founder of the National People's Guard. And Jamio Blanche, a youth leader. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, the main discussion still being Tanzania. So we're referencing from Tanzania, coming back to Kenya, to Uganda, and to the rest of Africa, just trying to understand from this youth perspective, what's happening here? Because whatever is happening in Tanzania, believe you me, many people do not understand. It is the very first time that we're witnessing this, and our papers captured it perfectly. Tanzania on edge. That's the front page of the Daily Nation. On the Standard, Tanzania on the brink as protests rock election day. Darkness in Dar. And also anasema kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, Giza, Tanzania. That is a big discussion. The second day without internet, a nationwide shutdown of the internet in Tanzania. Also a nationwide curfew, dusk to dawn, still holds. We still await the provisional results of the election. Indicate that Samia Suluhu Hassan is in the lead. Let's hope the best for our brothers and sisters in Tanzania. Back here at Morning Cafe, it is a feel-good Friday. DJ Kicks is already in the house. Bansi Kimuyu, the weekend Q and Odida, will be in studio to do a jig or two. So do stand by for that. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Have a lovely weekend.